Code is not recurring revenue. I don't know how to tell this to anybody. Like, code does not
So
come with
true.
recurring revenue.
Can you break down what vibe coding actually is and what it is not?
And by vibes, I mean natural language descriptions of what I want the thing to do to get software to come out.
Was there some sort of a mindset difference or anything like that when you tried to balance both of these?
I was just really bullish from the very beginning, overestimating the short term, underestimating the long term. And I'm like, no, this stuff is being underestimated in the short term.
Was it just like a bunch of questions that you asked it, or what was that process like?
Honestly, when people don't know, A, what questions to ask, or B, how to ask the questions, or C, how to answer the questions. And I know how to ask the right questions. And so I can get high quality answers and high quality code out.
Building in public and what you learn, what you share, what others say back into your workflow.
It definitely has benefits to the business, but it's not actually my main motivator. I really want people to feel comfortable experimenting. I want people to feel excited about what they could build. Those are really my motivations.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Founders Foyer with me, Aishwarya. This foyer is full of conversations, the space where creators, founders, and builders look for all the support and concepts to grow their ideas into products. AI has been changing the way we build, ship, and even collaborate. And honestly, I think curiosity, experimenting, and relentless product execution are more important than ever. At this crossroads, if I had to pick someone who truly embodies all of this, Claire would jump straight to mind. Claire is a trailblazer in AI product dev, and she's been the creator behind ChatPRD, one of my favorite tools, a platform born out of weekend project that rapidly scaled to a thriving six-figure business, which we're going to discuss a lot today. With a track record that spans founding companies, leading as a CPTO, working with our AI buddies, and orchestrating features in record time, she's known for blending technical skills with deep product intuition. Claire, I am so excited. I'm your fangirl, and it's so good to have you on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. I've been really looking forward to this conversation, and it's fun to just be able to talk about the stuff that I love.
You spin up features and strategy docs even during a 22-minute commute. Is there even a time you're not thinking about coding or product or anything like that?
I mean, yes and no, which is the way I made ChatPRD work in the early days, especially when I was really focused on a full-time executive job and my kids and my life, is I just had to do everything in corners. I get up really early this morning, got up at 4:30 in the morning. Like, I just get up early. I have to take care of stuff. And so I do try to be maximally efficient. That being said, I've been lucky enough over the past couple months, ChatPRD's got to a place where it's scaling a little bit more, and I occasionally take the weekend off. Like, it's really exciting. But yeah, you got to be in it, and especially in the early days.
No, absolutely. And I know how you used to code during your vacation. So it's definitely nice to have a little bit of time right now.
A little bit of break. Yeah.
For sure. No, in fact, as we're talking about this, spending time trying to take this whole idea to product and even more, I want to touch this concept right away, which is a lot of folks interpret vibe coding as spurts of just sitting down with models and doing one-off attempts at the output. But I know for you, vibe coding went way beyond this ideation, right? And I've seen how ChatPRD has actually grown all along from just being an idea on a doc to even a thriving business now. So I want to spend more time on this kind of a systematic effort and how much amount of time and attention that you've got to spend. Can you break down what vibe coding actually is and what it is not, especially now that the line is so blurry? I want more people to look at the skin in the game part of the vibe coding and not just the vibes.
Yeah, so I think there's a spectrum of things that are happening right now with AI powered building. And I think this ranges from, I have no idea what software is. I have never heard of an API in my life, but I use one of these tools to spin up something that reasonably works, that's kind of throwaway. But I never could do that before. And I think there's a lot, and I use vibes. And by vibes, I mean natural language descriptions of what I want the thing to do to get software to come out. And I think there's actually a lot of merit in that flow. And I think people are really dismissive of it, especially folks that are more senior in the technical departments or engineers. And they're really dismissive of that pure natural language, no technical background, quote unquote vibe coding on that side of thing. And I just think that's so short-sighted and so exclusionary to now people that are able to create and learn. Now, do I think
Yeah.
those vibe coding little apps are necessarily production ready, scalable, secure, perfect code?
Mm,
No. Do I think many of those apps are ever going to have that problem? No. I think these are like very much learning experiences for
right.
folks that are non-technical, and I think we should really encourage it.
Mm,
I think on the far other end, there's what I would call like AI powered software engineering or AI powered coding, where you're using a variety of
mm,
tools, whether it's an AI IDE like Cursor or Windsurf, it's an agentic flow like Claude Code or Devin,
right.
or you're just simply like using ChatGPT as a new Stack Overflow to debug stuff. Like there's this AI
Mm,
powered software engineering where somebody maybe more like me with a technical background who actually can and does read code can
yeah.
use AI to accelerate the development of code, tackle problems that perhaps they have not had domain expertise in the
Hmm.
past, and build real software. And I think you can see that happening from everywhere from solo founders like me who
Yeah.
are doing this by themselves to very, very large enterprises with thousands or even tens of thousands of software engineers using AI powered tools to build. And so I think when people say vibe coding, they need to be a little bit more precise about what type of
Yeah.
AI powered building they're talking about.
Mm,
And then I think the best practices and the education that needs to come with that differs. Now, code is not recurring revenue. I don't know how to tell this to anybody. Like code does not
so
come with
true.
recurring revenue. I wish I could like go to Cursor and be like, please, can you generate me some recurring revenue right into my
Yeah.
bank account?
I committed
It's not how it
10,000
works.
lines today. Can you
Yeah,
please give me money?
yeah. A dollar per line. I could do that. But the reality is what you're actually building are products. And product building is kind of this the same as it's always been.
Yeah.
It's faster. But if you want to build a product, you have to identify a real problem.
Mm,
You have to solve that problem in a compelling and differentiated way. And then you have to have a way to bring that problem to market so that your customers can actually discover it, use it, and get value out of it. And then you
yeah.
can do an exchange of commercial value. And that piece for me is just, it's not that different. I think the
Yeah.
tools you use are different. The speed at which you do it is different. The capital structure can be different. At
Right.
the end of the day, like the fundamental
Mm,
thing you should be doing if you want to build a business is like build a product that people love and build a business that works.
yeah.
That can be with AI or without AI. I think the same kind of best practices exist. And then if you're lucky enough to find product market fit, which we did at ChatPRD, and you're lucky
Yes.
enough that you have scalability problems or code maintainability problems, all those things, like
No
great, we
problem
can
to
figure
start.
out the right engineering kind of dress strategy for you.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that is quite a journey. And
Yeah.
you brought out a couple of, I think, key points. Definitely, when you start with an idea, really think if this is in the bucket of A, it is empowering people. So I'm just
Yeah.
going to go with the flow, just going to like hack something up. Or
Yep.
the other bucket, which is really trying to understand how does, I think the other bucket sounded more like orchestration. How would you fit this into your existing flow? How would
Yeah.
this actually turn out to be a complete product and picture? And one can have both, right? Like one can like
Yeah.
oscillate between doing something for vibes and doing
Yeah.
something that really brings back or ties back to a business and
Yeah.
sits well with the flow. And the other highlight for me here was see a lot of people, especially quote unquote the senior folks that we're talking about who are in engineering a product, tend to be quite dismissive about, oh, like that cannot be probably like adapted here in the org. We're too big, we're too small. Like there's just too many reasons. But and there's also this whole speculative thing about, oh, like AI is just wiping away jobs. But I think this whole aspect of, hey, like your fundamentals don't change. And if you're a good PM, you would still continue to be a good PM. It's
Yeah.
just that your way is even more smooth end, or like you just have a slightly better journey, is what I hear from your experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's so silly in my mind to be afraid of a tool that makes the practice of the thing that you're good at easier or
Yeah.
more effective or just more interesting. And the challenge that I give to a lot of AI resistant software engineers, especially in larger organizations, is this like, it will never work here is 100% a skill issue. And
Yeah.
like, boo on you if you can't figure it out. And two, I really ask them, I say, in 2 years, do you think you're going to pass an interview if you can't answer a question about how you use AI to more effectively, more
Mhm.
efficiently deliver products? And if you can't have a sensible, mature answer to that question, you're not going to be
Yeah.
compellingly employable, at least in most sort of like run-of-the-mill software engineering
Mm.
jobs in the next year or 2 years. I just think it's very obvious this is a new hard skill
Yep.
that people need to develop. But I do think that the kind of fundamental mechanism of delivery, which is like building products, still kind of
Mm.
stays the same.
At the end of the day, it's still dollars and business, and that has to keep running. So,
Yeah.
uh, with you on that. And in fact, one last thing I'll said on top of this is we're talking about people who, like I said, oscillate between, hey, I have these fun ideas to work on, like how you did when you were still at
Yeah.
Launch Darkly and you were the CPTO, and then you had like a lot of stuff with AI that you were focusing on a large org. And there's also like ChatPRD, a little project that's
Yeah.
keeping you busy. Let's say for every single person who's going through this, was there like some sort of a mindset difference or anything like that when you try to balance both of these AI workflows? Just curious on that.
And I think it comes back down to like I just like to build things. That's like what
Mm,
what drives me. And so in both organizations, I think I brought probably the same mindset to both,
right.
which is like we love what we build, we take pride, we do high quality, you care about the details, you move fast, we worry about rich
Mm,
people problems when we have rich people problems, like all those sorts of things. I think the fundamental leadership strategies and mindset I bring to all my jobs are roughly the same. I think
right.
when it comes to AI, with something like ChatPRD, I'm doing a lot more and where I'm in a larger organization trying to transform an organization to adopt these practices, these technologies, or basically level up. I'm doing a lot more teaching and organizational and cultural alignment
Mm,
around a new way of doing work. And so I think the types of work I do around AI practices really differ between when I'm working on a product versus leading a team.
right.
And I think the biggest challenge when you're leading a team is actually culture change as
Right.
opposed to tech skills or anything like that.
Right. It's also more like, hey, like I get to do these things more solo versus I've really got like a bunch of teammates to align with. And it's also like not just my mindset, but also like the folks' mindset as well that comes into picture.
Yeah, yes. And what I would say is like you should still just do things as
Yeah.
as leaders. You should still just like do things. You should still like write code, you play with the product. Like you should still just do things. And so I think, a lot of people are like afraid of organizational changes and afraid of leading by example and want to do a lot of like bringing along. But the reality
Mm,
is, the things that are effective in small companies can be effective in big companies too. You just
yeah.
have to be brave enough to do them.
Yeah. No, honestly, very true. And in fact, I know, Claire, you've been one of those very early folks advocating for AI at workplace, right? I remember at Lenny's and even before that, even before AI can actually become like a huge buzzword. Was there like something that you did? I don't want to call it controversial, but something like very different for the times that you did internally at Launch Darkly that now happens to be more like, hey, this is more widespread, but it was so new when you actually like introduced it.
I mean, I feel like I always feel like I'm still behind, but thank you for saying
I
I
know.
felt early. I've been in technology for a while. I'm like an old lady. My gray hair is in here. And I just could spot a state change technology coming a mile. It just felt as soon as I got exposed to these sort of like frontier models at a relatively accessible way as a consumer or developer, I was like, oh, well, now everything's going to change. And I'm wise enough now, knowing that there's a lot of opportunity
Mm,
in change. And there's a lot of opportunity in being early. And this is, sort of a story, a piece of advice that I give a lot of people. I say when mobile came earlier in my career, I didn't quite get what a big deal it was, right? I
yeah.
experienced it as a consumer and I thought it was interesting, but like I didn't identify this and say, oh, wow, now for the rest of my life, I will
Mm,
be completely glued to this tiny screen in my pocket. And what does that mean for my personal career development and opportunity? And I did have friends that kind of identified that opportunity, went really deep into mobile, and now they all have vacation houses. And so it's just like if you can identify these state change technologies early, become an expert in it, specialize in it, I think there's a lot of personal opportunity. That's one thing.
right.
Now, going back to your original question of like, what did I do in these orgs?
Mm,
I think I came to, I was in two different organizations as a CPTO over the past 3 years, just a transition period. And I was just really bullish from the very beginning. Everybody said it'll be like underestimated in the short or overestimated in the short term, underestimated in the long term. And I'm like, no, this stuff is being underestimated in the
Yeah.
short term for sure. And so I was really generous in those organizations with experimentation budget. We leaned in really early to just letting people use stuff. As I said a little earlier, like we worry about rich people problems when we have rich people problems.
Yeah.
We were just never going to have like code quality, scale, major security issues, presuming people were acting like reasonable stewards of the business. And
Mm.
so we didn't have to spend so much time like stressing out about, the policies of AI. We got a
Right.
simple AI policy in, we got budget allocated, and we went for it. I
Mm.
think maybe at Lunch Darkly, it was a little bit more of a cultural shift, especially in the engineering organization. I did this great podcast episode with Zach Davis, who's the director of engineering there, who I kind of put in
Yes.
charge of it. And I think there were a lot of reasonable questions about code quality, operational ability, and, maybe against the wishes of the org. As a leader, I was like, too bad, so sad. Like, we have to be leaders here. We
Yeah.
have, like, you have to. So we put it
Absolutely.
into the levels, we put it into the expectations.
Mm.
I mean, we said if you're not using this stuff, we need to know why. And I'm sure it made a lot of people unhappy. I'm sure they're still unhappy. And I think long term,
Yeah.
again, do you want to be employable in 24 months? Do you want to be relevant as a software engineering
Yeah.
organization? Do you want to build great products? If the answer is yes, and you're not working to become an expert in this space, you're making a mistake. And so I would encourage leaders to be a little bit more fearless about the kind of change
Mm.
they need to drive in an organization, because I think the opportunity cost is really high.
Yeah. No, and I think to add on to the policing part and like really trying to set up policies is become very different right now with every
Yeah.
company CEO also talking about AI at least in the
Yeah.
last couple of months. So I guess everybody's like trying to look at it more from, okay, so there's no longer a gatekeeper. There's no longer like, oh, I cannot be using this versus, okay, there's fairly like simpler policies. Let me just go ahead and explore. So I think
Yeah.
thankfully we're at that spot. But yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, there's definitive work from every leader and I think at every builder's level at every team to be able to, I guess, make everybody employable in the near future.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my hope.
Yeah, my hope too. Yeah, let's keep hoping. Cool. Actually, why don't we meet your AI buddies? I'm so excited. I know, like, you tend to like, take them up and then do a
Yeah.
little spin over. I'd love to have you walk over some sort of feature, something that you worked on very recently. Like, how do you orchestrate your buddies and plan these schedules and work around them? Would love for folks to see as well.
Yeah, so who's in my team? From an AI perspective, I would say the go-to tools in the stack are really going to be on the coding side, sort of like Cursor and the stack of models there. I love my little buddy Devin.
Do you want to share your screen? Like,
He's
is
my
there something
favorite.
you want to show?
I gotta think of a
This
thing that
case.
I can show. I have so much stuff, but I would love to walk through
Yeah,
kind of like the overview, which is,
for sure.
I have this like coding stack, occasionally dip into Claude Code, occasionally dip
Yeah,
into this other stuff, GitHub Copilot.
yeah.
And then we have support agents. So we have support agents that are handling, I would say 60% of our customer support relatively effectively and
Mhm.
independently. And then I have a lot of orchestrations of how, I respond to emails and schedule the podcast and all that kind of stuff. So what I would say at just like the highest level is that um, I've created a team around me. And for every function, I want that teammate to have a role and I want to give them a job to be done. And so that's been a really effective thing to do for me. In terms of demoing something, what do you want to see? You tell me.
Actually,
We'll
why
do
don't we
something.
go with the MCP stuff or something that's just more recent that you've,
Oh
like pull
yeah,
on.
MCP. That's fine. MCP. So like how do we build the MCP? I can show a couple of things that'll
Yeah,
actually be really, really
because
fun. So
I was looking at the rocket speed of ChatPRD's MCP, and I was like trying to build something
oh
of
my
my own, like
gosh.
with MCP. I was
It
like, wow,
felt
that's so cool.
so slow. It felt so slow. Let me get a couple things up. We can cut this, but
Sure, sure, sure,
let
sure.
me
Yeah.
get Okay, here I have a fun one. So I
Mm-hmm.
can kind of walk through how we did our MCP. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a personal fangirl of Cloud Code, and I think I'm yet to just use Devin in the whole workflow that you said. That's the only one that I've not used until now. But
So our MCP is a way for your client, whether that's Cursor or Claude Desktop or whatever client you're using, to connect to ChatPRD and actually pull some of the content you've been working with and actually generate content and kind of have a PM in line in the tool that you
Mhm.
want. And so I should be able to ask, finger across this work, I'm going to say, hey, what PRDs have I been working on lately in ChatPRD? Can you pull the docs? And it should ask me to list my documents, which it's doing. And so it's going through and saying what documents you have. And you can see here some stuff that I've been working on, homepage content. I've been working on website optimization. I was testing a new template. I've been doing a lot of like Jira tool export stuff that I'm working in. There's some like example PRDs from other other kind of like examples I've been doing for people, and then really technical stuff like better loading skeletons for loading screens. And so you can see here that I'm able to access all my product documentations directly here in
Right.
Cursor. And if I wanted to work on any of these, I could actually pull them and work on them. So I could say,
Mhm.
cool, I am actually ready to work on number 8. Can you pull the PRD into a markdown file in my repo in
Wow.
Docs? So I can
So
actually
cool.
pull down that document into the repo. It'll get the
Mhm.
document. It'll save it as a markdown file in my Docs folder. So you can see it's generating it right here. It'll take a second to pull all that content in if it wants it. It also can reference the content through the MCP, and
Yeah.
then it will let me open this up. And then what makes this really nice for developers is that you can then rely on the actual source of truth content from your
Oh,
product team or
absolutely.
whatever that is while you're actually working on it, and use it in a context that's actually helpful for the business. And so I think of this kind of like MCP as a product manager inline in your IDE that you can reference at any time and
Yeah.
ask questions of. And so
Yeah.
it's going to pull this in. I have this nice little now PRD that I've had generated. And then what's cool, Cursor has, like task building flows and things like that. So I can
Oh yeah.
say,
Yeah.
okay,
The latest ones.
this is
Yeah.
awesome. Oh, I can't spell awesome well. Awesome. Please make a to-do task
Yeah, like
list
me,
so
you don't
we
have to
can
correct it.
start building it. Yeah, that's a screen sharing. Okay, and so what's nice about this is it's combining the tools of ChatPRD with the
So
tools of
cool.
Cursor. There's a checklist here, and then we could just go through and
Mm-hmm.
start to build this stuff one by one, update the PRD, all sorts of like interesting stuff that we could do here.
Yeah.
And
No, this is very cool.
thank you. And the way we built it was a combination of using our different tools. So one of the engineers on the team built out the scaffold for this. We probably did the auth and some of that part manually,
Hmm.
just to make sure it works. But then we built out the actual MCP flow, using a combination of human coding and agentic coding. And then, I would pull in Devin for a couple specific things. Like, I'll give an example
Yeah.
here. Just
Actually,
kind of
how do you actually
interesting.
invoke Devin? Yeah.
Yeah, I love Devin. He's my favorite.
And
It's
my
always
God, like I think just to touch upon what you showed in MCP, right? As someone who always keeps telling Cursor at the file and then I create my own
yeah,
markdowns,
totally.
and this is like so cool. It just simplifies a lot of the stuff that I have to constantly keep referencing to.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I was really worried about was like prompt injection and security of our MCP, making sure that we're
Yeah.
only returning the documents. And
Mm.
you can see here, I just wanted a second set of eyes. Like I read the PR, it all made sense to me. But I asked Devin stuff like, are we appropriately handing authorization for the MCP? I was, asking if there were tool call issues. It was saying yes,
Right.
no, yes, no. We were going back and forth, and we finally got it to this place where like there was no vulnerabilities in the way we were structuring our
Ah,
queries at
nice.
all. And
Nice.
so there's just some interesting stuff here as a kind of like second pass set of eyes. And I think, I do code review on all of our PRs, or somebody does code review on all my PRs. And still, like, you got to read the code, you got to use the
Mm.
code. And it's just a secondary set of eyes that can look at your from sort of a fresh perspective. So that's a place that I definitely use these AI tools for when building something like the MCP.
Yeah, no, awesome. And I'm so glad you showed the whole security layer to it and constantly like
Yep.
chatting with the AI agent. Because I know for a lot of people who tend to want to close that last mile in building, it's exactly where they get stuck at. It's either it's auth or it's understanding if their product is secure enough to actually be like going into production and going live to
Yeah.
many people. So it's interesting because every time I think we take this line that when you build something with AI agents, it's not that reliable. I mean, it's great for all prototypes, but then if this actually has to go to a live state, people generally have the skepticism that how good it is with auth, how good it is with all the security layers. It's so cool that you actually showed how that breaks in and you can actually use an AI agent for the security part. Was it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like a bunch of questions that you asked it, or what was that process like? Like, how did you arrive
I
at the
mean,
fact that
I think the reality is, like, look, I've been building software for over 20 years. Like, I know my way around a
Hmm,
query. Like, I know how auth works. I know the big like security vulnerabilities in a web application. I know what to ask. And so I
yeah,
think, I'm at an advantage. And most software engineers or technical product people are at an advantage because they know what to ask the AI to
yes,
do. I know the ask for the AI in this was, are we appropriately passing the authorization tokens to the queries? Are the queries appropriately scoped to the data that only the user should have access to? Are there any vulnerabilities in the structure of the MCP that would allow someone to inject and then access data?
hmm,
Um, so I know how to ask the right questions, and so I
right,
can get high quality answers and high quality code out. I think the risk is honestly when people don't know A, what questions to ask, or B,
yes.
how to ask the questions, or C, how to answer the questions. And that Slack thread, if I go back to it
Hmm.
and I look at it, it's like 31 back and forths between me and Devin. So it
Ah,
wasn't like
right.
Devin said, "Oh, you're good to go," and I was like, "I believe you." He's an otter, so I don't know it. Um, very adorable, but he was like,
Very adorable.
yes, but these queries are wrong. And I was like, actually, those queries are
Mm.
right because blah, blah, blah. But I'm a little worried about this. Is that handled okay? And, and he was like, oh, that's handled fine, but you might need to worry about this. And I said, I agree. What would be your proposed fix for, we went back and forth.
Mm.
And so it's not so simple as like even knowing the question and accepting
Right.
the answer. You really have to be able to inspect. But luckily, I have the skills and experience to do so.
Yeah, and it just takes us back to what we discussed at the start of this session, which is if you know your basics of the
Yep.
fundamentals of product building, that's not going away
Yep.
because that's exactly where it'll be used.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, no, it comes a full curve for sure. And I like how you say he because I keep referencing, oh, like Perplexity told me this, O3 told me this, and then I
Yeah.
kind of like reference it as it's my teammate. But it
Yeah.
like I think a he and a she definitely like sounds good.
Oh,
Like
I mean,
makes you more
ChatPRD is
personal.
a girl. Look at her. She's got that
Yeah.
pink. She's got my energy. I here's the thing. People don't love people have strong feelings about the personification of AI. At the end of the day, I do treat these AI tools like teammates. I think they're most effective when I think of them as teammates. And so unfortunately, they're going to get, names. They're going to be referred to. I'm going to have
Personalities.
deep affection for all of them. Yes, and then when I build my product, right? I want it to be personable. I want it
Yes.
to be engaging. I want it to be a teammate you want on your team. And so
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's effective as a
No.
product principle, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it should be. I was recently chatting on my friend's podcast, and with all of what I said, he said, you know what? You're actually treating AI like a human. I said, of course, yes. Like, why would I not? And it's
Yeah.
almost like, yeah, it's a human. I mean, I don't know why people don't declare it to be a human, but well, it's up to them, I
I
guess.
mean, I think there's a couple things. Sure. I mean, people have given me these arguments of like, you're wasting energy and tokens being polite to your AI. It's not a human, it's a hammer. And I will just give my lecture on this, which is it has human like properties in the way it communicates. And I think
Yes.
the more as a person you get used to treating human like things inhumanely, the less nice you become. look, I'm nice to dogs. They're not humans. Like I'm nice to my lemon plant. It's not a human. I try to be a try to be a nice person. And so it's much more for the benefit of my own humanity than I think the benefit of the hammer, but I still think it's worth doing.
No, 100% worth doing. And it's nicely put. Yeah, let's all be good humans, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually touching upon this part that we just went through, you were showing all your AI buddies and walking me through your demos, and this is something you do publicly on the socials as well, on X
Yep.
and LinkedIn and all the other podcasts, the Hawaii
Yeah.
AI as well. Um, how's this public working and actually sharing a lot of your prompts and examples helped you improve ChatPRD's life? Because I know ChatPRD went from a weekend project. I know I keep saying this multiple times, but
Yeah.
I just love how this whole energy got built up.
Yeah.
So how is this building in public and really like trying to take what you learn, what you share, what others say back into your workflow? Is that a story that actually helped you change your direction or some sort of that for ChatPRD from all what you did?
The reason why I share in public, it definitely has benefits to the business, right? It's a source of traffic, it's a source of like expertise. It definitely helps, but it's not actually my main motivator for building in
Mhm.
public and sharing public. I think this is such a critical moment for mass upskilling across, in particular, our industry, but I think across the world. And I think there is truly going to be a lot of economic opportunity generated out of this moment.
Mm.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity cost to people that don't lean into that. And so I really want people to feel comfortable experimenting. I want people to feel excited about what they could build. I want people to feel inspired. I want them to feel seen. And so those are really my motivations in sharing. The benefits I get out of it is I get users and users give me feedback and then
Mm.
that helps me do things. But I'll give you a little like tip as a founder who's done this a couple times, which is I use a lot of like founder intuition to decide what to build and how to build. And I'm building this product for me. And if it makes me happy and I use this MCP and I like it, there's probably somebody out there that also likes the MCP and does it. And so I definitely take feedback. We do a lot of feature requests. I listen a lot to our users. And the roadmap comes from what I want the product to be.
Mm.
Not what Twitter wants the product to be, or what a VC wants the product to be, or even necessarily what our customers might imagine the product to be. It's what I want it to be, because I have to work on it, and I'm probably the biggest user of it. So,
Yeah. What? Yeah.
I try to integrate feedback, and I try to listen, and I try to be context aware, and I also try to be opinionated.
Mm. No, yeah, I think that also sets the product principles, right? I think I'm often a believer of the fact that a lot of yeah, you can listen to feedback, you can listen to how people think it should be, but there's also
Mhm.
some sort of internal guideline, like you said, which is your internal intuition, and I guess that's
Yeah.
like different phrases for different people. So it's important that there is a sense of belonging that you have with your own product, and if you don't enjoy doing that yourself, then I guess yeah, it's really not going to stick well with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. No, definitely agree with you on that. And in fact, that leads me to understanding more about this mindset around product building, right? Because
Mhm.
all of this intuition and a lot of what we call as product sense, the psychology, the philosophy, and all of this that gets involved in product building, I think there's some aesthetic to it, and which traditionally a lot of people stick to it and say, "Oh, like that's so unbeatable. You've got to like keep building on that skill." But with AI, it's also possible to synthetically co-create and do a very AI-led
Yeah.
understanding of building products. So, how do you see this combination play out? Especially we're talking about upskilling, being ready for the future, and you as an optimist, what's your take on all of this AI plus synthetic plus some sort of original skill?
Yeah, you can go back years and years and years, even before all this AI stuff hit, and you can find interviews of me saying one thing over and over and over again, which is fast beats right. And what I always meant
Mhm.
by that is the faster you can get a product built and out into the hands of customers, so much more useful time spent than having intellectual debates about what may or may not work. And it's so satisfying for product managers to be the smartest person in the room. And it's so satisfying to have the best product sense and the best taste and all that stuff. And I do think there's a role for it. And like the ego is unbelievable. And I think not fairly applied on both sides of the product sense equation. I think product managers will give themselves a lot of credit pre-release for their product sense, and then
Mm.
they will not take a lot of accountability on the post-release performance of those products. Why didn't all that product sense result in a product that generated revenue? Why didn't all that product sense result in a product that converted? And the reality is PMs aren't right all the time.
Mm.
And you're not right all the time. And
Yeah.
you want to get right more frequently and you want to develop that skill and you want to practice learnings. But I do think anything that can accelerate your ability to get real products in the hands of users are going to tune that product sense and intuition way faster than reading a book or studying or writing a paper. And so I've always philosophically been aligned with that mode of
Mm.
product building. Um, and so that's why I just think this moment is made for AI,
Yeah.
which is like I just need the ideas, I need them to be executed, I need them to be pointed in generally the right direction, and then I need
Mm.
users. That's what I need. I
Yeah.
don't need product sets, I need users. And so I think like that's, you know, maybe I'm just oriented a particular way to play into this AI moment. And I think for the right PMs that maybe are similarly oriented, you might have success with AI as a partner here.
Yeah. And I think this mindset also makes you look at AI not as a very separate entity, right? With which a
Yeah.
lot of people today look at it as, oh, well, like that's another layer being added. But I guess from what I hear from you, it's more around, oh, like this is exactly the destination I want to be in. It's just that AI has made this so simpler, so I'm going to use
Yep.
AI. Let's say like
Yep.
10 years down the line, if it's something else in the place of AI, we would still go and do it because yeah,
Yep.
ultimately it gets me to where I want.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. And is there also some sort of a, I don't know, like with all the execution that comes in, is there also a time that you felt going at that speed also has its own some sort of drawback? I don't want to call it a drawback, but like there's always like two sides to the coin, right? So is there like is there something that you would
Um,
like to keep in mind with that velocity?
No, I love features. I love shipping code. I'm such a people. I'm sorry if you ever have to work with me. I love to ship stuff. I think it's fun.
I'd love to work with you.
I've always just suffered. I've personally, and it's just born out of my experience. I have suffered so much more for the feature not built than the feature built not used. Like, and people don't like to hear that. It's not maybe not fun, but it's true. You know, ChatPRD, it's not that we don't have bottlenecks in our development velocity. We move fast, but we don't move lightning fast. But
Hmm.
and so we are actually less prone to feature bloat, all these challenges of high velocity because I've kept the team artificially constrained. There are
Got
only
it.
a few of us working on product. We can't ship everything. I don't want to ship everything. And the real eye opener being, you know, I did 10 years ago, I did a venture founded startup,
Hmm.
raised over $1 million, hired a team, blah, 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 did the whole thing. And now being a single person is when you are a single solo founder constrained, you only ship like what absolutely your users will use. Like you stay on the like vibrating edge, as I say, of product market fit. You cannot get ahead of
Hmm.
yourself. And I think it's a really effective moderating factor.
Yeah.
It's some of this velocity. Um and so that's one thing that I really think of. You know, the other thing is I naturally keep the bar pretty high. Like I care about detail, I care about scalability, I care about performance, I care about all those things. And so we tend to not bypass that stuff for the sake of velocity. We're actually able to do more
Hmm.
because of AI. I would say the the mistakes or failed experiments that we've had have been so cheap that they haven't felt painful. Like I can go
Hmm.
back 10 years and think about my startup and I spent like 10 years ago I spent 4 months like rebuilding this part of the app and it was just like not worth it. It never mattered. Customers never used it. It was such a way. It was like $100,000. It was total waste of money. It made me so mad. I still think about it to this day. And now something like that would cost a weekend and it would just be like, "Ah, whatever, like it didn't work. Okay, whatever."
Yeah.
And I just think my orientation towards the cost of risk is very different now in this age because of the speed we can move.
Yeah, no, that's beautifully put. And I think that's the thing about velocity. And I agree with you because a lot of these things are also first built and then sort of reflected upon. Because I remember earlier, a couple of years ago, just citing with your example, it just used to be a lot of these things has to be visualized. And when you
Yeah.
visualize a lot of it looks great in your head, but when you get it out, it's just like totally different shape. So I like the fact that now it's more of just show and just don't keep telling, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
show, and that show is just so empowering because a lot of times I catch myself to think, ah, now I see this.
Yeah.
Oh, like now I see why this can't be done or why this can be done. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is like so grounding as well as like so empowering at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, as we talk about this, I would love to hear your take on habits because
Yeah.
we're talking about users, we're talking about how product building with AI has been, accelerated and all of that. But there's also like in your case, especially, there's a complete world of transition from, being a C-suite leader to becoming a solo founder. What do you think as we build with AI would be our obsessions, our big challenges and rewards, especially as we work with these AI teammates, these models and agents? How do we view fine tuning them? How do we view working together with them? What's your viewpoint? Let's say a couple of years from now, how's it going to be like?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe it's self-serving. I think teams are just going to get smaller. And so I've just ripped the Band-Aid and gone there immediately, and it doesn't hurt my feelings. But I think this idea of like your seniority and your impact being tied to these like human fiefdoms where it's like how many layers you manage and how many people are in your team and like everybody wants more and more scope. It's like, do you really want more scope? I want to be obsessed with building great businesses and I want to
Yeah.
be efficient and effective there. And I do think being like kind of obsessed with your locus of control as opposed to your span of control, I think it's like a kind of an interesting
Yeah.
idea because having like full autonomous control end to end with a very small team or an AI power team is extremely empowering, very high impact. And I think people are going to have to like reckon with their personal perception of what it takes to be successful.
Mm.
What do I think we're gonna obsess with? I think we're gonna get into like efficiency maxing and burnout and all this
Yeah.
stuff where people are just gonna be able to do like so many things. And the
Already
orchestration
happening,
piece,
right?
yeah, and the orchestration piece will be hard. And like, is it any fun? So I think those will be interesting. But I think like at the highest level, more people will be building more cool things. It'll cost less, and we'll all have
Mm.
like more. And I think that's where I come from, like this optimist point of view, which
Yeah.
is like having more awesome stuff built in the world is not a bad thing. Now it might come with like
Mm.
more terrible stuff built in the world, and fingers crossed the balance is right. But I just think I want to see what people can imagine. I want to see what
Mm.
people can build. I want to see what problems they can solve for me. And I think that'll be really fun.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The problem space is also becoming very interesting because after AI has come through, while there are definitely traditional businesses being transformed with AI, there's also like these fun, amazing ideas that just get super quickly done. And
Yeah.
I see a lot of these examples from your own podcast, How AI as well. It's so cool to see how people ship stuff with AI. And especially, I mean, on my mind, I've recently been thinking about how AI and offline experiences can be amazing. And I was so happy to see somebody build board game business out of it. I
Yeah.
was just chatting with a friend about, oh, like we should do some sort of a perfume and AI together. And it was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is validating. It's fun to
Yeah.
see. Was that like a, I mean, now you're almost like an AI pro. I can't say almost, you are an AI pro. And then you keep building these systems for yourself. Is there something you look back now and say, oh, like now I AI this, but like, wow, I do it very differently? Or was there something that, you usually did differently, but then now you sort of do an AI for it?
Um, well, I mean, I've learned a lot from the podcast. I will say I am a very free floating AI user. I just really like to for the AI to take me where it wants. It brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
But I have learned a lot from the structured kind of like AI prompting techniques that some of the guests use, and I
Mm.
begrudgingly occasionally use them when I need to be more effective. And so I think there are like tactics, and I tell a lot of people I think this is a moment of hard skill development,
Yeah.
which is like you actually need like tactical skills right now to be really effective. So and then there's still plenty of stuff that I don't do with AI, that I could. And the reason I don't do that is I enjoy them. And so,
Hmm.
I've changed a lot. I'm sure I'll learn more. I'm sure I'll develop more of these skills. My friend Ryan will forever try to prompt me into being more structured with my vibe coding, and I will just refuse him forever. But I just try to stay really open to learning, not stuck in my ways, experimental. And so every month I do something new that I didn't do before.
That's so cute. And I mean, yeah, the biggest power with AI is you do you. So it's nice to see how a lot of these things are very unique. And as much as you can learn from people's skills and workflows, I guess at the end of the day, it gets like super specific to how it behaves for you and how it
Yeah.
really like sits well with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Wow. Claire, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It was so good seeing your AI buddies. I know I'm going to keep saying this a lot of times because I've been like super excited to see you build this.
Yep.
So it's amazing to have heard your stories. I'm actually very happy for the listeners as well who are going to be getting a lot of practical tips from what you've been doing with ChatPRD. And for the folks who have not tried ChatPRD, please, I'm going to like put it in the show notes. Please go try
Great.
it. And
Yeah,
yeah,
give it a go.
thank you.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
Yeah.